Good morning. Good morning. We're happy to have you again. For those who have joined us before, if you're new, welcome. Excited that you're here. Today, we're going to be answering a very popular question that we run across frequently. Is my sprinkler system adequate? And as we roll along, if you folks have questions, type them in the chat box and we'll get them answered at the end of the presentation. So at the end, we'll do the drawing for the $50 gift card, and we also might have a bonus drawing with a pop quiz at the end for another $50 gift card. So myself and Edwin will be presenting today. I'm Adam. I am the sales manager for Southern Indiana and Kentucky. I've been with Ryan going on 9 years. I spent 4 in our Noblesville headquarters and then 4.5, 5 down here in Louisville. Edwin's been with us going on 11 years. He's the sales manager for Northern and Central Indiana. So this is what we're going to be looking at today. This is a snapshot. We'll provide an overview of who we are, what we do, and how you can find us. Next, we'll tell you what's required on your end as a building owner, as it relates to, is my system adequate? We'll provide an example of existing facility and how we would approach determining if a system is adequate. Then we'll drill down on a storage approach. And for those of you that maybe are in hospitals or office buildings or residential properties, just because you don't have a big warehouse full of storage and racks doesn't mean that this doesn't apply to you. I think you'll see some things today that might open your eyes. Then we'll give you some incentives on what it looks like when you upgrade your system and what kind of money you can save doing that. So that's always good. And then we'll share our experience and our approach. Our theme today, truly, when you're looking at designing or installing a fire protection system, we want everybody here to know that this is not a one-size-fits-all solution. So that's our theme today. You'll kind of see why as we get rolling here. So who are we? I believe some of you have worked with us in the past. If you're new, welcome. We're headquartered out of Noblesville, Indiana, Indianapolis, essentially. We have branch offices in Fort Wayne, Valparaiso. Valparaiso covers our Chicago market, and then Northwest Indiana, South Bend, Indiana, Louisville, Milwaukee, and Bloomington. We're celebrating our 32nd year in business. We're owned and operated by 2 brothers. Their father started it 32 years ago. Great culture. We're sitting at about, give or take, 300 employees to date. We design, install, maintain, inspect fire sprinkler, fire alarm, special hazards, and fire extinguishers. So from a building owner standpoint or a property manager standpoint, a tenant standpoint, it's important to know what you're responsible for. So, having said that, when we're talking about, is my system adequate, it's your responsibility to inform folks like us when you have changes in occupancy, storage, or hazards. So, for example, if your building was once an office space and now you're storing flammable liquids, the chances are the existing system was not designed or protected to handle that sort of layout. And as always, the last 2, correction, repairs, and records. If this stemmed from a deficiency from an inspection, the local authority having jurisdiction or even your insurance carrier are going to require those items to be addressed. You never know when a fire marshal is gonna walk in, and I'm sure some of you have been there before. So when we talk about determining if a system is adequate, these are the code standards and books and folks that we need to understand. So the brunt of where we're going to get our material is going to be NFPA 13, the standard for installation of water-based fire systems. But keep in mind, there are hundreds of NFPA standards. So if you have flammable liquids, I'll use that as an example again, that's going to take us to a different standard. That's going to take us to NFPA 30 for code reference. International Building Code and Fire Code, also very important. FM Global has their own code book, or what they like to call data sheets. So we kind of set NFPA off to the side, and we go strictly with their data sheets. And we have found that there are some other insurance carriers outside of FM Global that are becoming more strict. They're making more site visits and analysis of your life safety systems. And for those that don't know, NFPA stands for National Fire Protection Association. So like I said earlier, Edwin and I and others at Ryan Fire here run across these situations frequently. An insurance carrier stops by at your building for an audit, a fire marshal walks in, Joint Commissioner HVAP pops by. They're more than likely going to find something. So they'll give you a report, or they'll give you some recommendations on what you should do to make it adequate or get it right or get it up to code. So that's when we get a call. Another example would be if you're buying a new building, you're moving into an existing building, or you're relocating your building. The first thing you're thinking about probably is the fire protection system adequate? And that's okay. It's just something that we want you folks to start thinking about, especially if you're building new, buying existing, or leasing, relocating. We've experienced a lot of different situations where folks were closing on buildings, either buying or leasing, and realize after the fact that a lot of work needs to happen to the sprinkler system to make it adequate for their operation. So what we would encourage you to do is, in those situations, is reach out to us, use this as a resource during the negotiation phase. And our thought is maybe we can provide some ammunition for you. And the best case scenario, we find out that your system's adequate and you don't need to do anything. So I wanted to paint a picture for you first before we got into how we handle an existing facility. So keep in mind, use this as a resource as those situations come up. Even if you're just sitting here and you're in a 10-year lease, or you just bought a building 4 years ago, and you're curious or you're concerned, reach out and we can help. So we're going to talk just about how do we determine if an existing facility is adequately protected. Well, I mean, we have to start somewhere. So where we start is we want to understand the current system in place, what it's capable of, how it was originally designed. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to ask you for as-built drawings. And for those of you that don't know what an as-built drawing is, I'll kind of show you here. Give me a second. It might be a little rocky at first. So I'm hoping all you folks can see this. This is an as-built drawing of a sprinkler system. And what it does for us is, I'll zoom in here, and I'm sorry if it's a little shaky, it'll pick back up. But what it does is it gives us an idea of what size the underground water supply piping is. Right here at our spigot, it shows us the backflow, it shows us the size of the riser. It also shows us how the system was hydraulically calculated. On this specific project, we have two areas that we hydraulically calculated. It also gives us really important information, like what size is the piping. These are sprinkler heads here, these circles. So it'll give us the type of sprinkler head, the spacing of the sprinkler head, size of piping, and then I know it's kind of trickling out here a little bit. It'll also give us size of mains. So that's an overview of what an as-built drawing is. We love to have those when we come into situations like this, because it's a lot less work, and it's just going to help speed the process up. But if you don't have drawings, not a big deal, don't worry about it. we can do a full system survey. Our engineering and estimating staff, we have the capability to do that. So there are also hydraulic placards on the riser. We'd rather have as-built drawings, but the hydraulic placards on your risers also do tell us a lot as well. So we would look at both. Next is water supply. Water supply is very, very important. So we would want an updated water flow test or a fire pump test, and that has to be within the last 12 months. So if you handed me a fire pump test or a water supply or a water flow test that is 13 or 14 months old, I'd probably want to do another flow test just to verify that the information that we have is correct. For those of you that don't have fire pumps, we would be flowing hydrants. And you can see a picture here on our right hand side doing we're grabbing a gallons per minute there with a pitot gauge. Back to the full system layout. Let me go back to water supply really quick. So let me tell you why that's important. So water supply does a lot for us. It's a huge component. It determines pipe sizing, design options, sprinkler head types, and sprinkler head spacing. So water supply, top 2 items we need to dive in and see if a system is adequate. And then system layout. So you provide as-built drawings for us, great. We will still do a field check, so we would still come out to your facility to verify that what we're seeing on the drawings is accurate and there haven't been any changes. And like I said, if you don't have drawings, we would send an engineer out there, fully survey the building, draw the sprinkler system in AutoCAD, and create our own as-built drawings, quote unquote. And then lastly, we're going to ask you questions about your process, your manufacturing process. We're going to ask you questions about your storage, your operation, and any future plans that you have. Whether you're building modular offices or you're putting an oven in a warehouse over here. Edwin's going to get into storage here in a little bit more detail, so I'm not going to steal his thunder there. So we have the drawings, we have water supply, we have a great layout, we understand what you're doing at your facility, what you're storing, how you're operating, and our last thing to do is get into code or FM Global or insurance requirements, and we provide you a yes or no, and if it's a no, we're going to give you a solution. So like I said, you can see the theme stands. There's just not a one size fits all solution when it comes to protecting a building, and I think we're going to see more of that here as Edwin gets into storage.
Thanks, Adam.
Sorry about that.
Thanks, Adam, for muting yourself there, or somebody. I'm getting a little feedback. Some of the questions we ask, a couple things we like to ask. Actually, we have a lot of questions to ask when we get into what you're storing or what you're manufacturing, or what have you. So I threw a few of the questions up here. Obviously, these are not all of the questions, but it'll at least give you a kind of an idea, and I'll kind of explain what those mean. So when we're looking at a facility and trying to understand how to protect it correctly per, like Adam mentioned, NFPA or FM Global or what other standard that we need to follow, it can actually get pretty complicated. And I want to reiterate to everyone that Adam mentioned earlier, there's not a one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to fire protection. It very, very, very rarely are we able to take what we did in one facility and duplicate it into a different facility, because there's so many little tiny variables that can change everything, which we'll get into a couple of those here. Like I said, these are some of the most important questions we ask and where we kind of get started. So the first question is, what are you storing or manufacturing? What that means is, do you have finished goods or products that you're storing, or are you a supplier of pieces and parts and have a wide variety of items being stored. An example here in Indiana, we have a lot of auto manufacturers. We have Subaru up in Lafayette area. We've got Honda down in Greensburg. Well, around those are typically a lot of ancillary plants. Some of you may be in one of those that will produce maybe the seat belts, or the interior panels to the door, or the seats, or something. That's what I refer to when you're a supplier of pieces and parts. So once we know that, there's a lot of other questions that we'll really kind of dig in on what the products are made of, how they're made, right, which can affect how the sprinkler system is designed and installed. Another question we're going to ask is, how tall is your building, and then how high are you storing? Are there racks? There can be some significant advantages of keeping storage heights under certain elevations. I won't get into what they are because they change depending on what type of commodity, which we'll talk about in a second, that you are storing. Some of the cutoffs 5 feet, some's 8 feet, some's 12 feet. The short answer is it depends. So that's why this analysis is important when it comes to how to protect your facility correctly. There's also some advantages of keeping your ceiling or your deck, whatever you want to call it, below a certain elevation, and keeping the storage between the top of the storage and the deck between a certain distance, or not exceeding a certain distance, or not being within a certain distance, can really help minimize or alleviate some of the strains on your sprinkler system, to help save some money. Also, a question we ask all the time is, what's the building construction type? And typically, a lot of people are like, well, I mean, it's a steel structure building. That should be pretty easy, right? It's steel structure. It's like, well, yes, it is steel. We understand that most buildings, commercial facilities, are steel, but it's important for us to understand exactly what type of steel. I-beams, if there are I-beams, which I'm certain there are in a lot of these facilities, how deep are the I-beams? Are they 18 inches, 24 inches, 36 inches? That matters. Are there open web bar joists? Are there Z-purlins? As you can see on the photos here, these, I can't tell for sure, but it looks like those are Z-purlins or some sort of C-channel with I-beams running perpendicular. That's important, and it's a huge difference on whether there's I-beams with open web bar joists. So when we ask what kind of building construction, we're referring to some specific items, not just, oh, it's steel with concrete slab, if that makes sense. Lastly, as Adam alluded to, is water supply and pump capacity. Everything starts with the water supply. Everything starts there. So your water supply from your local water purveyor is going to determine whether you need a fire pump, how big of a fire pump, or if you don't need one, if you need a water storage tank or not. There's just so many variables that come into play with the water supply, and we can help you obtain a water supply by either doing it ourselves or coordinating with your local water purveyor to have them do that for you. In most instances, it's your water purveyor will do it at no charge for you. So yeah, that's just kind of a brief description of the storage approach. I do want to note that I know we're talking I'm heavy on storage right now, but this does apply to manufacturing and other kind of verticals as well. So Adam's got a video here. So this is just a fun video showing a fire test of a 40-foot storage of a wet type sprinkler system with I believe there's NREX. I cannot remember in this video, but it just kind of shows you the time lapse of when a fire started, how a fire kind of grows within a rack storage with the cardboard and wooden pallets, how fast it can get up to the deck. I think we're only 2 minutes in maybe right now to a fire getting started at the lowest level. And here, before you know it, obviously you can't hear the sound, but the sprinkler system will go off and you'll see what an impact that it makes. The point of showing this is that without the correct sprinkler system in this facility, more than likely the system would not have been able to contain this fire, and it would have led to a catastrophic loss if it were to happen in a large warehouse that's full of this type of commodity and storage arrangement.
Yeah, the sprinkler system has still not activated. You will know as soon as it does here. it's getting out of control. And now you can see it activate. So very important when we're talking about storage that you have an adequate system for these reasons. But a lot more manageable. Yeah, this is a lot more manageable for, you know, the fire department, folks to get out of the building and things like that. So I'll let you continue, Edwin.
Yeah. Next slide here is identifying storage. What does that mean? A lot of times we get, hey, I've got racks. I'm just storing, you know, stuff in racks. It's, you know, I got they're 3 bays high. It's like, okay, well, how high is each bay? Is it a 4-foot bay? Is it a 2-foot bay? Is it an 8-foot bay? How wide are they? How are the aisles? There's a lot of things that we need to know. And we would get into that with you on an individual basis. But point is, it can get pretty complicated. The first thing we look at kind of is what you're storing to determine where it falls in the spectrum of commodity classifications. And I pulled that directly from National Fire Protection Association, NFPA 13. It identifies if a textile, it's a class 3 commodity, and you know, so on and so forth down the list. It kind of really identifies that for us to take the guesswork out. You know, in many issues with storage arrangements, it's not necessarily what you're storing, it's more of how you're storing it. For example, there's different types of pallets, there's different types of storage bin box containers, there's cardboard, there's, you know, all kinds of different ways to store your materials. As you can see in the photos on the right, these are different examples of storage arrangements. The top photo is an open top plastic container. The lower photo are cardboard boxes wrapped in plastic. In this particular example, the customer may be storing items that have no flammable or combustible characteristics, but the manner in which they're stored creates the need to analyze the capacity of the existing sprinkler system. Like I said, there's different types of pallets, right? The standard pallet, and I use pallets as kind of the example here for my case study, if you will, just because that's what most people understand. The standard pallet's wooden and they're nailed together. I think we've all seen a pallet, or we probably even threw a pallet on a bonfire before and see how fast it burns. A common misconception is that a wood pallet would be more dangerous than that of a plastic pallet in a storage configuration, when in fact it's actually quite the opposite. And the reason is plastic pallets act as fuel to a fire, just like that as a wooden pallet, but the characteristics of plastic do not allow it to absorb water from the sprinkler system once it has activated. Therefore, so once a fire starts with a plastic pallet, and it gets roaring like the video we just showed, as soon as the sprinkler system operates, it's typically by then the plastic's already too hot, and the surrounding plastic pallets that are not on fire are unable to be, we call it pre-wetted, which may not even be a real word, but it's what we use here in the sprinkler industry, pre-wetted to prevent the fire from spreading. So the fire just keeps spreading, water hits those plastic pallets, bounces off, goes to the floor, and effectively, you know, doesn't have the firefighting capability that it should. Adversely, when you're faced with the same situation in wooden pallets, and like I said, wood pallets may catch fire and burn quick if you've ever thrown them on a bonfire. The fact is, once the sprinkler system activates, it will sweat the surrounding pallets, known as pre-wetting, and not allow those pallets to catch fire as quickly or at all. As we all know, if you've ever tried to start a fire with wet wood, it typically doesn't work, or it takes 10 times longer, I'm exaggerating, to get started or start that fire and keep that fire going than it does with dry wood. So just kind of a little case study there I like to use, and that goes for the cardboard wrapped in plastic. That plastic wrapping around it acts as a water deterrent. It pushes the water away and does not allow that cardboard to be pre-wetted to prevent the fire from spreading. Lastly, real quick, liquid storage. So you see a container here on the left is something that would obviously be used to store some sort of a liquid. There are many types of liquids that can be stored, and there's many different types of storage containers. This one is a plastic tote, we call it. You've got relieving and non-relieving type. You've got 55-gallon metal drums. You've got all kinds of open-top pails. And you've also got finished products, right, which is a mixture of chemicals put together or liquids put together versus, the raw materials that are used to, say, make paint or something like that. But the first place we start with chemical or liquid storage is your SDS or MSDS sheets, along with an inventory list. An inventory list is incredibly important. There are cutoffs when you have too much of one type. It changes classifications, etc. So if you have any of these things, I recommend giving us a shout, and we can kind of help you maneuver through that and determine what kind of system, what kind of protection you may or may not need to minimize your risk.
Thanks, Edwin. I'll get you over here. It's time to talk about saving money.
Yeah, so now you're probably asking, well, this is great. I probably need to do something. I probably need to have my system looked at, maybe even upgraded. But what's the point? Where I'm going to spend this money? What's the value add, or how am I going to get my money back? What's the cost impact? Those are all really good questions, and there's actually some programs out there that will help offset those costs. Currently, the CARES Act that was passed in 2020 as part of the pandemic has given building owners a tax advantage for upgrading their system facilities. This is more than just sprinklers, but it's just general facility upgrades. I do want to say, full disclosure, we are not tax advisors. We're just sprinkler experts. We do suggest consulting with a tax advisor on the intricacies of the program. But I can tell you we've had quite a few clients take advantage of this. And from our understanding, the CARES Act, what it's done is allowed businesses to deduct the entire expense of the upgrade of their facility in the same year that the expense was burdened, rather than spreading the depreciation out over 5 to 10 years or whatever it is. So we can send you some documentation on that if you want to email Adam or I. But it's a pretty significant savings on the business end. One more thing, another thing it will do is upgrading your system. In a lot of instances, it can lead to reduction in your insurance rates. It can lead to increased property value. So if you are a building owner and you lease your space out, you have a system that is capable of handling many different types of storage and manufacturing arrangements. This will help make your building more marketable and ultimately increase the number of likely lessors or people that will lease your facility. And then insurance, a lot of times FM Global, other insurance carriers, they will give you rate deductions on your insurance premiums for upgrading your facility's sprinkler system and fire protection system. So those are all things we can have those conversations, down the road, or if you want to dig into those, feel free to reach out to us and we can help you. Adam?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Edwin. Well, we're kind of nearing the end here. We've provided some insight on what you're responsible for, how we can help. We're throwing a lot of information at you in a short period. We can get in the weeds really quick. We tried not to do that today. So what we're truly here to do is we're here to educate you, and we're here to help. So we want to make sure that you're compliant with whoever it is, whether it's the AHJ or it's your insurance carrier. We've done a great deal of these design analysis solutions for customers. I gave you an outline of that process and what that looked like earlier. If you remember, we request the drawings, we need water supply, system survey, understanding your process, your storage, your operation, and then providing a solution. And, in general, all we're trying to do with the design analysis is give you the most cost-effective way of protecting your existing system or your new building adequately. Our goal is to make sure that you're compliant. And you may be sitting here today thinking, why would I want to open that can of worms? Well, from a liability standpoint, I'd say you should always be considering a design analysis, and definitely if you're moving, buying, or building or changing anything at your facility. definitely use this as a resource. Give us a shout. It doesn't cost you any money just to get us out there to take a look. So don't be shy there. I've also been told that the chat box may be disabled for this presentation from one of our producers. Edwin, can you see any questions in there or no?
No, I can't. I don't know. It's a technical glitch here today.
Yeah.
For those that are on the call here, Adam's going to do the drawing here. We do have that ready to go. However, if you have questions or concerns or would like some more information, you can email Adam or I. Again, I can't put it in the chat box or what our emails are. I think, Adam, if you want to pull them up.
I think what I can do, Edwin, is maybe I would encourage them to go to our website here. Maybe hit a contact us. So you can go to our website at www.ryanfp.com. Click contact us, and you can fill out this small form here, and that'll come straight to Edwin or myself, and we'll take care of it from there. You think that works, Edwin?
Yeah, that's probably best.
Okay, time for the drawing winner. It is, just got it, Derek Phillips. Derek Phillips with Kite Realty. So Edwin, that's probably up there north with you.
Yep.
So we'll, Derek, we'll get that $50 gift card over to you. I wanted to do a bonus drawing with the theme of today, but we're not able to do that with the chat box being down. So we apologize about that. Thanks for joining us today. Look for the next one next month. Anything else from you, Edwin?
That's it for me. Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.